Alright, my math friends, we are actually jumping into 3.2c now. Now we are actually going to be doing the lesson in the book, 3.2. Finally, we're getting to this. And we're going to talk about adding and subtracting rational numbers. We're going to be working with positive and negative numbers today. Alright, first of all, we need to find out what are rational numbers. Okay? Chapter 1 and 2, this was 1 and 2, we worked with integers. Now chapter 3, we're going to be working with rational numbers. And all these are categories of numbers. Okay, just like we have different categories of vehicles, for example, like cars and trucks and sports cars, SUVs. We have different categories of vehicles. We have different categories of numbers. Integers, if you remember, are whole numbers, and they can either be positive or negative. Alright? There's our negative sign. Rational numbers, they can also be whole numbers, positive or negative, but they can also include fractions and decimals that are positive or negative. Okay, so rational numbers is kind of a big category of numbers since it includes all of these. Alright, so how do we add rational numbers if we have fractions and decimals that are positive and negative? Well, some good news for you that it is not going to be anything different than we did in Chapter 1. We're going to use the same rules as Chapter 1. Okay, which is kind of nice. And if you remember our rules from Chapter 1, if we are going to add them, when both numbers have the same sign, we add like normal. Alright. And when the numbers have different signs, we subtract. Same rules as Chapter 1. And the answer is the same sign as the bigger number. Okay, now remember when I talk about bigger number, I'm talking about absolute value, how far a number is away from 0. Okay, let's take a look at some of these and we'll start working these out. Alright. Oh, I need to go back for a second. Let's go back for just a second here. We're also going to be subtracting. Okay, so we're going to use subtracting rules from Chapter 1, which is basically just same, change, change. Okay, same, change, change, and then after we do same, change, change, it turns it into an addition problem, and then we're just going to use these same rules right up here. Okay, so we are going to do subtracting in this lesson too. Alright, just a quick refresher. Same, change, change is going to apply in this situation too. Alright, here is our first example. Let's look at fractions first. We have 3 and 5/6 plus negative 1/3. Okay, now just like addition from Chapter 1, these two are different. This is positive, that's negative, so that means we're going to subtract them. But before we can subtract a fraction, we have to get a common denominator. Now check this out. 3, I know that I can multiply 3 by 2 to get it to turn into a 6, and that will give me a nice common denominator, which is going to save me some steps. So I'm just going to do that over here. I'm going to take 1/3 times 2, and that's going to give me 2/6. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to set this fraction up now. I have 3 and 5/6, and I'm going to subtract, because remember they are different, we have to take them away from each other. I'm going to subtract 2/6, and that's going to give me 3 and 3/6. Alright, now I have to simplify, because check out this fraction here. 3 and 6, we can simplify that down. If I divide both of these by 3, that is going to give me 1/2. Okay, so my answer, simplified all the way down, is 3 and 1/2. Now let's go back and take a look at our addition rules. We have to give the answer the same sign as the bigger number. In this case, our bigger number, the bigger absolute value was 3 and 5/6, so it's going to stay positive as 3.5. Alright? Nice job. We just did our first fraction problem using positive and negative fractions. Alright, let's take a look at our next example. Here we have subtraction, which automatically in your brain you need to be, oh, I need to do some same, change. And you're exactly right. That's what we're going to do. That one stays the same. This is going to turn to plus, and this is going to become a positive, just like chapter 1. Alright, so now I have negative 5 3/4 plus 3 3/8, okay, which tells me that I'm adding these two, but since they are different, I'm going to have to subtract. Alright, but before I can subtract, I need to change the fraction, this fraction, to get common denominators. There's always that extra step. And looking at these two fractions, this is going to be an easy one to change because I know 3/4, I can multiply that by 2 to give me a common denominator of 8. Alright, that's going to be pretty nice. So let's just do that. 3/4 times 2 times 2 gives me a brand new fraction of 6/8. Alright, so I'm going to set this up. I'm going to subtract these two, so I'm going to have 5 and it's now 6/8 minus, and I'm subtracting because remember they are different, that's why I'm subtracting, that's our rule, minus 3 3/8. Okay, so that's going to equal, let's see, take away my whole numbers, I end up with 2. Take away my numerators, I end up with 3/8. Alright, now check if we can simplify, and we can't. There's nothing that we can divide both 3 and 8 by. So now my answer becomes 2 3/8. Final check to see what sign your answer has to be. In this case, my negative number is bigger. It's further from 0, so my answer has to be negative. Alright, there's our answer to that problem. Alright, let's check out this one here. We have subtraction. This time we have a whole number and a fraction, but don't worry guys, it's not going to be that scary. This is going to be pretty simple here, not too bad. So we have to do same, change. Alright, so and then this is going to become negative. So we turned it into addition. They are different, so we have to subtract. So let's subtract these two. 9 4/5 is bigger, so I'm going to have that one become first. Okay, just like when we are subtracting numbers, we have the bigger number go first, so that's easier to subtract. And then we can just have minus 2. Alright, we don't even have to worry about making 2 into a fraction. It is going to be just fine. Don't even worry about that. So let's just take 9 minus 2, that's going to get us 7 4/5. Did you guys like how that worked out? So simple. Okay, that's how the ones in the book are going to be, just like that. Alright, 7 4/5 is our answer. And now take a look at to see if it needs to be positive or negative. It's going to be negative since 9 4/5 is further away from 0. That's our biggest absolute value, so that's our answer for that one. Alright, there's some fractions examples for you. Now let's get to our decimal examples, and we'll work a few of these out. Alright, important rule, the rules I told you from yesterday's video was to line up the decimal point. Okay, and I also told you another important rule, and that was to fill the empty spaces with zeros. Alright, empty spaces with zeros, because we are definitely going to need to use that here. Alright, okay, now let's get down to the business of adding and subtracting these. Let's take a look at our first problem here. Negative 7.81 plus negative 3.2. We are adding, they are both the same, so our rule says add like normal, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take 7.81, I'm going to line up my decimal points, 3.2, I have a little empty space here, no problem. Stick a 0 there. Add these together. That's going to give us 1, 10, carry the 1, and we're left with 11.01. Alright, my rule also says that I give the answer the same sign as the numbers. Since they are both negative, it's going to be negative 11.1 for that answer. Alright, let's take a look at this one. This time we have subtraction, so automatically think same, change, change. That stays the same. That becomes addition. This becomes a positive. And now look what I did. I changed it to addition. They are different, which tells me I have to subtract. And I want to put the bigger number on top. So my bigger number is going to be 8. Notice how 8 doesn't have a decimal, so I'm just going to stick one right there, and then I can put a decimal point right there. So that way it allows me to line up my decimals. Now let's put our 1.459 right underneath. 1.459, just like that. Oh, ouch, look at all these empty spaces we have. Fill those in with zeros. We're subtracting because they are different, so let's see what we get for an answer. We have some borrowing to do. Make that 10, and then 9, 10, 9, 10. Okay, now we can get to the business of subtracting. That's going to give me 1. 9 minus 5, 4. 9 minus 4, 5. Decimal point, 7 minus 1 gives me 6. So my answer is 6.541. Now do our final step. Go back to the problem because we have to give the answer the same sign as the bigger number, the absolute value. This time it is negative 8. Has a bigger absolute value than 1.459, so our answer becomes negative. Alright. We have some combo problems. These right here, this time we got 3 numbers together that we're going to add. That's no problem. Remember, start from the left, work our way to the right. We're going to deal with these two first. They are different, so we're going to have to subtract them. So I'm going to work that problem out right down here, 12.65, and then I'm going to line up 7.6. Notice how I put the bigger number on top, filled in the empty 0, subtracting. That's going to give me 5, 0, decimal point, borrow. Alright, 5.05, okay, which is going to go right here, 5.05. Check if it has to be positive or negative. It's going to be positive since our positive number is bigger. Now let's drop down what we have left. We're going to add negative 15. Okay. Now since I'm adding, and they're different, positive, negative, I need to subtract. So I'm going to take care of that right over here. Put my bigger number on top. There's no decimal point with the 15, so let's add a decimal point with it. And let's put our 5.05 underneath of here. Throw on a couple zeros for those empty spaces. Remember, we're subtracting because they are different. Alright, let's see what we get for an answer here. We need to borrow. Make that a 4, a 10, a 9, a 10. Now we can subtract. We have 5, 9, decimal point. Oh, can't do that. There we go. Now I can. 14 minus 5 gives me 9. So I'm left with 9.95 is my final answer. Take a look at what sign it has to be. We just did this problem right here. Our negative 15 has a bigger absolute value, so it is going to be negative 9.95. Alright, there we go, guys. You just did adding and subtracting positive and negative fractions and adding and subtracting positive and negative decimals.